And good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Marc Schollett. I'm coming to you live from the Up North Live digital studio, and I am joined by Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist. Lieutenant Governor, thanks so much for taking a few moments to talk to us today. Today's a significant day. It's the one-year anniversary of President Biden signing the CHIPS and Science Act into law. A significant day.
This is really tremendous. I'm so proud of the Biden-Harris administration that was able to work with a bipartisan group of members of Congress to get the CHIPS and Science Act done 1 year ago today. Although I will note that the Democrats in the Michigan delegation supported that when all the remaining Republicans in the delegation did not. So when we're talking about the progress that we've seen, the investment we've seen in the state of Michigan specifically, thanks to the CHIPS and Science Act, Hemlock Semiconductor expanding, SK Siltron coming into fruition here in the state of Michigan, bringing these supply chains home from overseas, not just to America, but to Michigan specifically for this critical industry that builds the components that power so many of the things that we use in the cars that we drive, to the phones in our pockets and everything in between. This is critical infrastructure investment, manufacturing muscle that's being scaled up in the state of Michigan thanks to the CHIPS and Science Act. This is why Governor Whitmer and I advocated so fiercely to make sure that this got done. We led the call of governors and lieutenant governors across the nation to lobby Congress, to lobby the administration to get it done. And we're glad to see the results, and it's going to make a big difference for Michigan and for America.
Lieutenant Governor, we all learned, well, a lot of people obviously knew a lot about semiconductors and probably a lot more than I did. But when the pandemic hit, we suddenly learned how many things in our day-to-day life involve semiconductor chips. We started seeing fewer cars on car lots, fewer products on store shelves. Is that when we really learned, or we're all exposed to the fact that we need to have a reliable supply chain when it comes to semiconductors?
I think the semiconductor supply chain disruption that we saw during the pandemic, I think was indicative of how we need to think about supply chains broadly. So we do see the semiconductors, again, are integrated into almost everything that we use on a daily basis. Again, microwaves, cell phones, refrigerators, cars, you name it, it likely has a semiconductor in it, helping to make it smarter and more reliable. And so as a result of that, this important federal action, the CHIPS and Science Act, helps us bring these supply chains home in Michigan specifically. But I do think this is indicative of the president's broader strategy, which is to make sure that we need to be more reliant on America and Americans to be able to make the things that we need to improve our quality of life today and tomorrow, to invent and build and invest in. And so this administration is committed to that, whether it's the CHIPS and Science Act that we're celebrating today, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. They represent generational investments in American talent, American muscle, our ability to create and be creative. And I think the CHIPS and Science Act is going to be the clearest illustration of it.
This again, we've talked about a handful of products that have these chips in them. We saw it every time we drove down past our car dealerships here in Traverse City, the shortage, because there simply weren't cars on the lot. The automotive industry, obviously a huge driver of Michigan's economy. Why is it so important? Why is today such a significant day for the auto industry here in Michigan with the one-year anniversary of the CHIP Act?
Well, what it means is that our automotive supply chain, which is one of the lifebloods of our Michigan economy, as you alluded to, is stronger now because the CHIPS and Science Act was signed into law, because of investments that were inspired by the CHIPS and Science Act and enabled by the CHIPS and Science Act, are now bringing us the ability to scale up semiconductor manufacturing in the state of Michigan so that they can have close proximity to those automakers, to the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 suppliers who are building components that need chips in order to make their parts. This is going to make our industry more robust. This is going to make us so that if we do have other global supply chain disruptions, they will not disrupt the automotive supply chain, because we have more of it happening and being made in Michigan. And that's what the governor and I want and prioritize. When we say make it in Michigan, we mean we want people to be able to make it in Michigan, and we want companies to be able to make whatever they need to make in Michigan, with Michigan mines, Michigan muscle, sand, solder from Michigan. We can do all these things here with our supplies and our resources. And the CHIPS and Science Act has made that more possible today.
With obviously, I believe if the number if I'm right on this. It's about a $53 billion act. It's my understanding. But also, when that was announced, there also came a lot of private investment, I understand. So a significant investment in Michigan from private investors as well. But it takes a long time to go from we have a plan to we're producing chips. It's a pretty complex process of building facilities, getting people trained in the technology. It could be a while before we actually see the return on investment on either this private money or this federal money. Is that accurate to say?
We're actually seeing the difference already today with SK Celtron and Hemlock Semiconductor, whether it's Calumet Electronics in the Upper Peninsula that is continuing to their leadership in their realm of the industry, KLA, a leading sort of picks and shovels supplier and provider for the semiconductor industry that's announced 2 aggressive expansions in the Ann Arbor area here, companies that are based in Silicon Valley, but now built their second headquarters here in the state of Michigan. So we have seen immediate impact and results from the CHIPS and Science Act. And we will see that over the years to come as more of these facilities come online, as they scale up their capacities and capabilities. So I think people can already see the results, and those results will only continue to expand as our supply chain gets stronger for chips here in the state of Michigan.
Lieutenant Governor, anything else you would like to add?
I think you covered it. I just say that this really represents the type of leadership that the Biden-Harris administration is showing. And that's why we're proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them to bring supply chains home and lower costs for families here in the state of Michigan and all across America. Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much for your time.
All right, Mark, take care.
Have a good day.
You too.